Yeah.
You always got to be thinking with them from their perspective. I'm opening this letter. What's in it for me? Instead of throwing it in the mail or in the garbage, what's in it for me? So, the first sentence has to say, hi, my name is, and I'm an expert in, or I have experience in, and these are the these are three things that I've done recently. This is very simple language.
Hmm.
These are three things that I've done recently that I think might be of interest to you.
Life is going great until one day you're out of work. No matter how it happened, you need to find a new job. Pronto. The problem is, no one ever taught you how to navigate the ever-shifting and ever-changing wasteland of applying for a job in the modern market. I'm Rob Conlon, and here on Recruiting Hell, I help people get jobs. I'm on a mission to help educate 10,000 job seekers on the best ways to get hired in the modern job market. No matter your field, this show is designed to help you level up your job hunting game and escape the many circles of recruiting hell. Step into my studio and let's get you the hell out of here. This episode of Recruiting Hell is generously supported by our friends at CoinList, one of the fastest growing companies in the cryptocurrency space. CoinList is hiring. Visit www.coinlist.co/jobs to apply. Tell them Rob sent you. Welcome back to Recruiting Hell. Episode 51 here continues our conversation with David Perry about the fantastic job search techniques that he's had from his over 45 years of recruiting. Let's join the conversation already in progress, and if you missed the first part, hit the back button and head to episode 50 where we celebrate that wonderful milestone with the first part of this conversation. Thanks for listening. Well, hey, you mentioned those other two techniques, which was the Trojan thank you note, which is the one I want to move to next, which is almost, if I really dissect it, David, it's almost like psychological warfare, which is really funny. It's such a the triggers behind it I think are so neat. So tell us a little bit about this tiny envelope and why dropping one to his prospective hiring manager makes a ton of sense, and then tell us a bit more about what's inside that envelope.
Okay, so you've got your one-page resume.
Okay.
You got your cover letter. You're going to add one line to the cover letter. What you're trying to do is, what you're doing with the Trojan thank you note is you're guaranteeing yourself that the person that opens up your letter and resume are going to be in a great mood. Because there's only two things that come in a 3x5-inch white envelope. It's a thank you note or a party invitation. You'll never get served your divorce papers in an envelope that
very
size,
true.
right? Nothing else. So we know this from when we were little kids,
Yeah.
My mother would bring it in, I'm going to a party, this little envelope, right? So people are automatically smiling when they get this and they're opening it. And you handwrite it on the front. And
Sure.
Handwrite your return address. Handwrite. Don't put labels on these things, folks. And they open up the card, and inside the card is your resume and your cover letter folded into four. And what it says is this: thank you for reading this letter. That's your opening line. The rest of it is your cover letter. Whatever you put in your cover letter. But you say, thank you for reading this letter. That's the only major difference. And people go, oh, that's so creative. That's so cute. We've never had anybody blow up on this. We have videos on the site of, I can't remember Gail's last name. She did this on a radio station, and they invited her in for an interview, and they told her ahead of time that we just got to meet you.
Sure.
We've already hired somebody else, but we just got to meet you. This is just so creative. And so she went in, she had the interview, she didn't get the job. And then 3 weeks later, they called her back and said, the other girls didn't work out. Would you like to work for us?
No way.
Oh, yeah. She had to go through the interview process again.
Sure.
But she got the job.
Good
So
for her.
the Trojan thank you card, thank you note works over and over and over again. And it's a great thing for shy people to use, because shy people
Ooh.
don't necessarily want to use, well, you know, not everybody wants to use the Starbucks coffee cup caper and pick up the phone and call someone when they get an email that says it got delivered. But using the Trojan thank you note, anybody can use that because you don't need to follow it up. They're going to call you. And they're going to be in a good mood when they call you. We've over and over and over again, I use it. I mean, I hope there are no recruiters listening to this podcast, please. But, there's no better way to get into a new client. Think about this. There's no better way to get into a new client, to talk about doing business with them, than to use a Trojan thank you note. Tactic on them.
Interesting.
You're not looking for a job. You're looking to start a conversation and potentially get a deal out of it. All this stuff that we talked about, none of this is theory, right?
Right.
I've been running a job search, quote unquote, lab out of my spare bedroom in the house for a couple of decades, because my friends all rely on me to help them, right? And my best friend, I placed him, I think, 7 times before I finally made him do it himself.
Wow.
Over 25 years. Well, that's pretty typical. Over 25 years.
Okay, that's fair.
And and Kevin was my job search dummy. And there's a lot of stuff that we've tried that didn't work.
Okay.
It really didn't work. This stuff all works, and and it's easy to do, and it's low cost. I mean, the Trojan thank you note is what, 50 cents for the card, 39 cents for the stamp.
Right, $1. Call it $1 all day.
For less than $1, you got an interview.
And that could be huge for somebody, especially if they have limited resources. I mean,
Yep.
Thinking about coffee cup caper, and I'm not putting any critique towards it, but to get cups and a box and things like that, and then FedEx it to somebody, that's not exactly pennies. It's dollars.
It's 15 to $20.
Right. And, for somebody who may have been out of work for a considerable amount of time and budgets are tight and things like that,
Yep.
That's not something that maybe is that right size for what that budget is. But what you're talking about now, David, again, that's cheaper than driving to the company in most cases. And knocking on the door. So I think that's excellent. So I want to ask a couple other things real quick about like the contents of that Trojan thank you. And we talked about, what a Guerilla resume is, and that should be in there, right? That should be the one pager with,
and they can Google Guerilla resume.
And you got templates and stuff like that.
All over the web, and they can do Guerrilla marketing for job hunters, or they can say Guerrilla resume. And if they hit the image sign when the Google results pop up, there are thousands of them there.
Great.
I mean, since we started doing this a long time ago, people have taken the basic ideas we had, and they built on them like for more than a decade now.
Wow.
So there's a ton of stuff, and people don't even have to worry about being creative, because if there's 380 million people in America and there's 40 million in Canada, there's 420 million people. Maybe 500,000 people have done this. So the majority haven't. Most of these ideas, most people would never have heard of them, and most people have never tried them or had them pulled on them. So do it. And when these stop working, I always pledge when they stop working, I grind out the next series.
Yeah, totally.
But they haven't stopped working.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Rob. Sorry.
Oh no, not at all. But you're mentioning these examples online, which I think it's great to be able for somebody who's listening to the show to say, I like Rob, I like David, but you know what? If I actually go and see this thing for myself, that's a great thing there. When it comes to the cover letter, now you said add that sentence at the top. Thank you for reading this letter, which is awesome. In your mind, and this is maybe a little bit of a drill into this, if I'm writing somebody a cover letter, what makes a good cover letter that I should be including in this? Like what kind of things? Again, actionables, I would think, but what else?
So it's you're familiar with WIFM?
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me?
Yeah.
You always got to be thinking WIFM from their perspective. I'm opening this letter. What's in it for me? Instead of throwing it in the mail or in the garbage, what's in it for me? So, the first sentence has to say, hi, my name is, and I'm an expert in, or I have experience in, and these are 3 things that I've done recently. This is very simple language.
Mm-hmm.
These are 3 things that I've done recently that I think might be of interest to you. A, B, C. Just bullet them out. Boom, boom, boom. If in fact you are interested, if in fact any of these accomplishments or projects that I've done are of interest, then why don't we have a coffee?
Gotcha. And it's that simple.
Sincerely, David. And you see, and we know that the 3 bullets are of interest already.
Right, because we've done that research.
We've networked with the newly departed. You'd have to be living under a rock and have the rock on your head, not to go, oh, geez, I gotta call this guy. So they'll, it's so simple, it just works. It's like when we're giving speeches. Tell people what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them.
Right, the 3-part. Exactly. I use that all the time.
You don't need a fog machine. You don't need music. You don't need dancing girls. Well, in my case, you might need the dancing girls. But they will pay attention because it's of interest to them. It's very simple. You have a problem I can fix, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do that. And the secret is, if the problem is big enough,
mm-hmm.
and it needs to be solved, they're going to hire you. They're going to hire you on a contract. They're going to hire you for a job. But if the problem is big enough, they will hire you to fix it. It is as simple as that, folks. Seriously.
Excellent. And, listeners, I think it might be worth your while to hit that back button a few times. That last minute or so of content there was pretty, I think, reaffirming for a lot of things for people's job hunts, that if you have the solution to an employer's problem, it might not even matter if they have a hiring freeze. If you can solve the problem, they'll bring you in, right, David?
Absolutely. Well, so 2 things. Absolutely, that's the first thing. The second thing is, employers hire people to solve problems. Nobody ever got up in the morning and said, "Oh, I have an extra $50,000 in my account. What am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to hire somebody for something because that's what I'll do with that money." Never happened. Never happened. No, David gets up and goes, "Oh my God, I've got to do this. I'm going to get fired. This is not working. How do I solve that problem?" Managers get up every morning with problems they have to solve. That's why they're managers. That's why they're directors. That's why they're VPs. They got to solve problems for the company or the organization so it moves forward. So find out what the problems are, and then tell them, "Oh, I've fixed that." So I can sit down and tell you how I did it. Even if you tell them how you did it, chances are they're still going to need to hire you to do it.
Right. You've got the operational skills, not the. You can communicate it, but maybe they're not able to do it.
Reading the operations manual is not the same as piloting the Starship. It's as simple as that, right?
There's another one of those graphics there, man. Reading the operations manual is not the same as piloting the Starship. But it's true. It's absolutely true. I know how to drive a stick shift car, in theory.
Oh God. Don't be grinding those gears.
I know, right? Again, the only cars I have to practice on are beautiful classic cars, which is terrible. So I will probably never drive a stick shift. I know. I wouldn't dream of it. But anyway, so David, you have brought us so much good stuff so far. There was one other big statement that you made the other day that we were talking about that was really interesting to me. We've had a couple of marketing minds on this show. One of them, very, very good friend of mine back, 12th episode, Sasha Kennedy. She's a brilliant marketer. And you said to me the other day, actually, she came on for Marketing Yourself 101, and you said the other day that Job Hunting 401 is really Marketing 101.
Absolutely.
And tell us how this transition kind of happens between getting better at job hunting and then eventually transfer almost, I would think, seamlessly maybe into marketing.
Yeah, because what marketers try to do is find people that have problems that their product or service is a solution to.
Mm-hmm.
So they do a lot of research, and then they go out and say, if you have this problem, here's my solution. That's marketing. Job hunting is, I write a resume. Maybe it's a short resume, maybe it's a long resume, but it's black text on white paper.
Right.
And I hand it out to everybody I possibly can to see if anybody has something that they want to hire me to do. That's how job hunting happens now. Or I talk to as many people as I possibly can to find someone who knows somebody that may have a job that I want to do. Imagine if you actually put your marketing hat on, or your curiosity bone, you tickled it, and tried to find organizations that had problems. You did some research to find companies that had problems that you had a solution to. That's marketing research. And then marketing is just, instead of black text on white paper, and for 3 or 4 or 25 pages, you borrow a staple from marketing. It's called the halo effect. All right, and everybody, when you see a Coke symbol, it brings out certain feelings, especially if you're a Pepsi guy. But same thing, if you see a Pepsi symbol, or you see a Nike swoosh, you see any symbol that is used to represent a company that is well known and makes you feel good.
Hey listeners, we're going to take a quick break here for some of the business side of running a podcast. These sponsors not only believe in this show, but they may have a product, service, or even an open position that can help you end your job hunt. Give them a listen and drop by their websites in thanks for their help in supporting this show and your work search. Hey folks, it's Rob. A lot of times on this show, we talk about the power of networking to find a job. Well, networking is exactly how we wound up partnering with our newest sponsor, CoinList. So you're asking yourself right now, Rob, what is CoinList? Well, CoinList is a San Francisco and New York City-based technology company that provides investors with access to the most cutting-edge investment opportunities in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space. On CoinList, investors can access the best new crypto tokens before they list on other crypto exchanges, and it pays to be early in crypto. Now, right now, they have 2 special offers for listeners of Recruiting Hell. The first, as a Recruiting Hell listener, you'll earn $10 of Bitcoin when you create an account and trade at least $100 worth of assets on the CoinList trading platform. That's right, you heard me, free Bitcoin. Just visit www.coinlist.co/recruitinghell to get started. The second is something that could end your time in Recruiting Hell altogether. CoinList is hiring. You heard me right. CoinList could be your next great opportunity for work. Excited about cryptocurrency? Got a passion for technology? Find CoinList's open positions today at coinlist.co/jobs. That's coinlist.co/jobs. And when you do, be sure to tell them Rob sent you. We're back. A big thank you to our sponsors for their offerings, as well as you for considering them. On with the show.
Well, if you work for a company that does something that an employer respects, be it Coke, be it Nike, be it Budweiser beer, if you throw that logo, it could be the school you went to, if you throw that logo in full color on the left-hand side of your resume, as soon as they see it, it evokes feelings. You get a good feeling when you see the Starbucks logo. You get a great feeling when you see the Nike logo. I can go on and on and on. And what you're doing is, in marketing, that's called the halo effect. You're benefiting from the great marketing and the good experiences that are associated with that brand. So rather than build your own brand, because that can be hellishly expensive and a long process, you borrow the logos from the companies, the brands that you work for, and you put them on your resume. And people will feel good about you. You went to the same school. They would never know that unless they read your whole dull resume right to the bottom and found out you went to the same kindergarten. Oh, I remember that kindergarten. Or you can just put the logo there, and boom, they're already in a good mood.
Got it.
You're setting the ambiance for the reader.
Very interesting.
It doesn't get any more sophisticated or simple than that. I remember when I first brought this out in the first Guerilla book, standing on the stage, and I think I was in Chicago, and someone said, "Well, won't we get in trouble putting a logo on our resume?" And I said, "I hope so."
Nice.
The lady said, "Why?" And I said, "Honey," and this is where I get disrespectful, right? I said, "Honey," but I got away with it. I said, "Honey, if you put a logo on your resume and your company comes after you to sue you, you got to let me know, because I'll make sure every major television station is at your house that night. You'll get a job. Somebody will hire you." And then I looked at her and I said, "Seriously? No one has ever gotten in trouble by borrowing a logo. You're not making money off the logo. You're not disrespecting it." I said, "But you know what? When in doubt, consult a lawyer. You'll never have a lawyer anywhere tell you that you can use a logo." However, having had this discussion many, many times in the first 2 years that the book came out, all of a sudden LinkedIn said, "Hey, you know what? You can put the logo of your company on LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn profile, right?"
Right.
And I did not have to answer that question anymore, because I just said, "Hey, listen, if it's good enough for LinkedIn, it's good enough for me."
Right.
I just had it first.
Absolutely. And that's kind of an interesting thing. That the halo effect, I really like that, because that is sort of for me as sort of a pseudo marketer. Like, I'm a former sales guy, but like I hung out with the marketing kids, and a lot of them are my friends and things like that. And knowing about that brand, like, I knew what the halo effect was in practice, but actually hearing the theory and the actual like dictionary definition, I think that's absolutely fantastic. When it comes to, I guess, David, asking folks that who are maybe are good at marketing themselves, like, what's the best way to get a marketer's attention to maybe learn something from them? Because I know I love my friends, and Sasha, if you're listening to this, that I always pay full price, always do. I don't believe in friend rates, but most of my friends, David, charge between like $50 and $70 an hour for their advice. And for somebody who's looking to get a little bit better at marketing, what's kind of the way, I don't want to say around that, but how would you advise them to get the most bang for their buck if they were going to invest in something like that?
Well, the absolute cheapest way to get to the end line here,
Mm-hmm.
most people still live in a town that has a library, right?
Right. Yes.
Yeah, libraries have books. Call your librarian and ask them if they have a copy of Guerrilla Marketing for Job Hunters 3.0.
Hey.
And walk over to the library and read that section in the book. What did it cost you? Depends on how you got to the library. That's it. And if you have a library card, and if you don't have any overdue books, because they might hold you ransom.
Right.
But it costs you nothing. You don't have to ask your marketing friends. But when in doubt, and you want to ask your marketing friends,
Mm-hmm.
you say this: "I heard a guy on the radio who said," fill in the blank. "What do you think?" And they'll tell you.
Got it. So a little bit of a bait there, if you
Yep.
will. Got it.
They'll tell you.
I'm actually really glad you said go to the library, because that seems like such a boring response, but like, I live between two librarians. These guys, they eat, live, breathe, everything, exude research. And listener, if you are not taking advantage of your local library and your local librarians, that's a huge resource that you can get in with. And I know that here, in my hometown, we have a delightful library. There's great ones all over the Milwaukee metro area, and I certainly hope that if you're listening to this, there are great libraries by you, staffed by awesome librarians like we have.
The funnest thing, I totally agree. I love my research librarians,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I have 3 former librarians who are researchers that work with us on the executive search side of the business.
Oh, that's
International
cool.
International. Yeah, and my uncle was the head librarian for the University of Regina. What I wanted to say about librarians is one of the funnest things I ever did, because I was a big mouth and got in trouble at school all the time, especially in the library. I was the keynote. I was the keynote of a Library of Canada series
Mm-hmm.
about 10 years ago. About 900 librarians sitting very quietly in the amphitheater where I'm going to present. And I walked up to the mic and I looked to the left, and I looked to the right. I adjusted the mic, and then I leaned in and said, "Shh."
Nice.
Always wanted to do that.
That is so great. How did that go over? Lead balloon?
Total lead balloon.
Oh, that's
Total
terrible.
lead balloon. I might as well have been making fun of nuns.
Gotcha. Well, then you get attacked with yardsticks and rulers.
Nah, my stepmother was a nun before she met my dad, so I got a whole host of jokes there. I won't go there.
Oh gosh, that's funny. Well, good
You'll
deal.
be X-rated. What else would you like to talk about?
Well, there's the last one, David, and this is the one that I think has possibly the best story you have behind it, and it's about the email chain letter. And you mentioned that your daughter had to get a job at one point, and that in this story, which was, listeners, you did not hear our pre-interview conversation, but you mentioned in this story that she was on a crazy tight deadline, like had to get a job for school by Friday. It's Thursday evening.
It's Wednesday. Let's not exaggerate. It's Wednesday, but it's Wednesday evening. I'm standing in line in Detroit after I've spoken at the Automotive and Aeronautical conference at about 700 engineers, and I'm standing in line, and I'm actually moving. The line is moving. I'm going to get my plane, and my vibrator, my BlackBerry goes off. And I answer it, and it's Krista. And this is I actually talk about this in the book. This is the opening of the book, of the 3.0 book. And she said, "Hey, Dad, listen, I got an assignment, got to hand it on Friday. I have to find a summer job as an intern, and this is worth a lot for my mark." And I said, "Well, do you know who you want to work for?" She said, "Oh yeah, I got my top 10 list." I said. Can you do an email chain letter? She said, yeah. I'll talk about that in a second. I said, okay, so you're going to do an email chain letter, and then you're going to do a targeted Facebook ad campaign. She said, okay, got it. So I get on the plane in Detroit. So I'm coming to Ottawa, so naturally we fly to Philadelphia.
Right. Go further east to come back west.
Let's go east before you go northward. So I land in Philadelphia. I'm walking to my plane, and the phone goes off again. And as Krista, she says, okay, I got the email chain letter all set up. The Facebook ad campaign's good to go. I just need your credit card. So, fine. So I give her the number, and I said, I'll text you my PIN number. So I give her that stuff. I said, don't spend more than $10. And the $10 is for Facebook. It's not for the email chain letter.
Right.
So I get on my plane. I ride for 3 or 4 hours. I land in Ottawa. I'm coming out of customs, and the phone goes off. And it's Kristen. She said, it worked. I said, what worked? She said, I got 2 interviews. I said, bullshit. She said, no, I got 2 interviews.
It's so crazy.
And one of them was for Canada World Youth. So that's the one she wanted to go for. So here's how this works. You've done your top 10. You know the companies you want to work for, and maybe you haven't done the Trojan thank you card. Maybe you haven't done the Starbucks. In fact, we suggest you do this before you do anything else because this costs you nothing. So you write an email to your friends, and it says, Dear, I love you, and I'm looking for a new job. And this is what I used to do, a couple of sentences. And these are the companies I want to look into next. And these are the accomplishments that I have that these companies might be interested in the email. And then you say, so what I'd like you to do is read through that list, and if you know anybody that works at any of those 10 companies, could you please call me and let me know, because I'm doing some research. And if you don't mind, when you're finished, can you please take this email and send it to 10 of your friends and ask them to do the same thing I've asked you. Just clip it and ship it. And by the way, nothing bad will happen to you if you don't do this. If you
right, it doesn't have the punishment
if you email chain letter. There's nothing bad will happen to you. But something good could happen to me if you do this. And so the math is simple. It's 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 10, and it all happens like within sub-seconds, right? And within 3 hours, she had found somebody that she went to school with, whose father knew the executive director of, what's it called? Canada World Youth. And called her.
Wow.
Called her.
He called her.
He called her. because his daughter said to, right? And she was a friend of a friend. And Krista had the interview on a Saturday, and I think it was the following Monday or the Monday after. I think it was the following Monday. She got on a plane and headed to the Ukraine for 6 months.
That's wild. It is absolutely wild.
Got an A in the class, by the way.
Good for her. That is good for her. So, I have to tell you, David, when you first described that technique to me in email chain letter, it set off all sorts of bells and whistles in my head, because one of the things that I found that has been really a predator for the unemployed and for the underemployed are multi-level marketing organizations. Your doTERRAs and your other, MLMs, if you will. And at first, I was like, "Oh, what is this guy going to talk about with this? Like, this chain letter stuff is MLM themed." And we take what's that?
It's marketing.
It's marketing, but when we take a very firm stance against multi-level marketing on this show. However, the tactic that you describe, and I actually had to sleep on this decision to want to talk about this with you, is non-predatory, in my opinion, because it doesn't actually cost people anything in this case. And I think that that's really a great, good thing, if you will. If good things can come from MLMs, that I think that there's really a way to harness that power of, I guess, the power of friendship, if you will, to get hired.
People are inherently good, Rob. Yeah, I told you my story about growing up in the States. People are inherently good, and people want to help. The challenge when you're looking for a job is, unless you know what you want to do and where you want to do it, they can't really help you. Because if you say to someone, "Well, I'm looking for a job," and they'll say, "Well, so-and-so, I don't want to do that." Well, my sister, I don't want to do that. They only got to hear, "I don't want to do that," 3 times or less.
And then they'll stop helping you.
I got no ideas. But if you said, "I want to be a project manager working in aquaculture, saving salmon," and they happen to know somebody who knows somebody, they go, "Oh, well, that's like my cousin Shirley. She works at a fish farm and blah, blah." This is an actual example. And that's how it goes. People want to be helpful. You just have to help them. And it's not fair. That's why I say networking doesn't work. It's not fair to ask people to help you when you don't give them any parameters. And they try, and you keep saying, "No, that's not helpful. No, that's not helpful." Well, come on. Now you're just making me feel like a moron. Now I'm feeling as bad as you're feeling. So don't do that to your friends. Give them some parameters. Let them help you. They want to do it. And by the way, they won't forget it. And they'll be just as likely to ask you to help them when they need it. And there's nothing worse. We've all experienced it. Probably us more than most people. We've all experienced it where we found somebody who lost their job and didn't tell anybody.
Oh, it's like the most frustrating thing to me. Like, I can help you.
Yes, and anyway, that's what our Christmas parties are for at the house. But that's a whole much longer story. But we had, I felt so bad. This is about 10 or 12 years ago. We had friends that we invited to the Christmas party, and there's about 150 people that come to this party every year, sometimes more. And I accidentally found out that he was unemployed. And I found out because he actually said, "Thanks for inviting the whole family to the party, because we haven't had a decent meal in a couple of months." And I went, "What?
Whoa.
I'm a headhunter. This is what I do for a living, right? I've written all these books. I would expect people to call me. I get mad at my friends when they don't." And I asked him, and I understood the situation right away. But after that, it became a thing that every year we would invite 12 or 15 clients that we had and make sure that the people that we knew that were either thinking about making a move or in between opportunities were at the party as well, and we introduced them. And the first year this happened, we had I love my clients. I had a couple of clients. Well, I had all 4 clients call on a Monday morning and said, "Hey, I met so-and-so. at the party, and he's a great such and such, and I think I'm going to hire him. How much do I owe you? And I said, like, for what, man?
No, right.
Seriously, if you want to give a donation because you're feeling bad because you don't want to, because you're going to save $15,000 or $20,000 because that's what a fee is. I mean, at minimum.
Yeah, they're big.
Then there's a ton of charities. You know the one that we donate to. We donate to the Children's Hospital. Send them a check. Send them a check anonymously, or do something else like that. We expect nothing.
That's cool.
Thanks for asking, but we expect nothing. And and this has happened. It's been going on for probably about 12 years. And now what happens is many of those people that were in that situation that got jobs, they've now started doing similar things, like a summer barbecue or a Halloween thing.
Sure.
Where they do the same thing, and like I said, people want to help. You just have to figure out how to let them. And in this case, I was just so ashamed of myself because I wasn't paying close enough attention to realize that he was in between opportunities. I should have been a better friend.
Well, and for those of us that have that stuff, we need to continue to help and reach and help elevate others. But yeah, David, I think that is one of the most awesome things. I mean, now listeners, you can't all pile into David's backyard for a barbecue and get hired, but at the same time, I mean, that's the other thing too, is, make sure that you're staying engaged with your local friend group and your community and things like that, and getting out there. It's so easy when you get unemployed to be like, hey man, we got to really cut back and shelter in place until this blows over. But you got to keep those bonds up. And David, that is a perfect example of why that should be. Wow. On the money, man. Hi, listeners. This brings part 2 of our interview with David Perry to a conclusion. David and I had such a great conversation filled with so many tactics that took a great deal of time to cover that I wanted to make sure we didn't drop those all on you in just one giant chunk. An hour and a half podcast, even for some of the longer shows out there, is a lot of time to invest. So I figured breaking this up into 3 smaller chunks was a far better way for you to use your time, but also to make sure that we gave the respect to all of the concepts that David introduced over the past week, and of course we'll introduce next week with part 3. Not going to do triplicates here very often. These are going to be a very rare occurrence, but we might do another double before the season's out. But we wanted to make sure that every single thing in this particular conversation I had with David got to you, because he has some wonderful experience to share, and again, some very original ideas. Plus, David and I have been in talks to have some offers for you created from his programs, so we are definitely taking a look at how we can help make sure that your job hunt is shortened up big time, and of course that you can find something that you enjoy doing. So thanks again for listening here. Part 3 next week, and then I promise you we will have another guest. As we draw this episode to a close, remember, you are worth more than your work. Your value to society is not dictated by what you do to pay your bills. Job hunting is difficult, no matter your age, gender, location, or background, and it's both acceptable and to your benefit to seek every bit of help in conquering this challenge. For more from Recruiting Hell, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player or our YouTube channel. And don't forget to leave a review of the show if your podcast platform allows it. It's tremendously helpful. Connect with Rob via LinkedIn. Be sure to visit recruiting-hell.com to subscribe to our newsletter. And of course, follow the show all across social media. Just look for the orange and blue flame logo. Recruiting Hell is a production of Westport Studios and is proudly made in Wisconsin. Lastly, be sure to visit and support our sponsors. They make it possible to do this show and make it better every single week. Remember, your job hunt is a marathon, not a sprint, and Recruiting Hell will be here to help you keep pace. Thanks for listening. Hey folks, it's Rob. Are you looking for a new opportunity in an up-and-coming industry that can help you get out of recruiting hell? CoinList, one of the fastest growing companies in the cryptocurrency space, is hiring. That's right, they not only support this show because they believe in it, but they believe that there's great talent to be found in this audience. Generous comp, great flexibility, incredible benefits, a strong culture, and a powerhouse team sound like a fit for you? Head to www.coinlist.co/jobs and apply today. That's www.coinlist.co/jobs. And be sure to let them know that you found them here on Recruiting Hell.